Come on, buddy. Hey, Kelly, how are you?
Hi, Jeff. I'm doing great today.
Awesome. Thank you for joining me on Indispensable Appraisers podcast.
Thanks. Appreciate being here.
Yeah, definitely. So, what in the valuation space, what are we winning at? What are we doing a good job at?
Oh, I'll tell you what, I think we are doing a great job at proving that we can solve difficult problems. The profession, not only the foundation, but the profession as a whole, was recently painted with a pretty negative broad brush. Broad brushes are difficult in any situation, but appraisers proved through their efforts that they were the adults in the room. It's easy to dig in our heels and deflect and say, you're all wrong. It's just political. But instead, the profession came together, did the more difficult work. It analyzed the allegations, it reflected on them, and using their terrific objective and analytical skills, came out with some pretty darn good results. Um, USPAP now has a non-discrimination section of the ethics rule. It makes it crystal clear not only to appraisers, but to regulators and consumers of appraisal products that discrimination is now and has always been prohibited under the Uniform Standards of Professional Appraisal Practice. Appraisers are also understanding and going to be more educated about the Fair Housing Act and ECOA and the lasting impact of federal regulation that we know as redlining on valuation and on bigger societal issues. Um, those federal policies were very damaging in a number of ways, and they continue to have impact on our markets and on valuation. So appraisers are going to have better understanding about the origins of that and really understand that lasting impact and how to make certain that they're not letting any bias creep into their professional practice. So that's all good stuff. Um, those are, you know, two impactful ways of the many things that have happened over the last few years that really show that appraisers are those intellectually curious problem solvers who power the world's largest economic engine. They know how to get it done, they know how to come together, and they are winning on that front wholeheartedly. They've also proven a second way that they've proven that they're winning, that the industry is winning, is actually in the coming together. They've realized that the unnecessary flame throwing and divisiveness is just counterproductive to the profession as a whole. There are still those who make money off of clickbait and throwing negative crap out into the airwaves. But the profession as a whole understands how much better it is to put that energy into doing positive things for the profession. Example of this podcast, Indispensable Appraisers. Indispensable Appraisers is absolutely the right theme because appraisers are absolutely critical to the world's economy and this economy in the US being the strongest of them all. And they're not going away. And I just love it that appraisers are coming together collaboratively to stand up and show that they are uh, that economic engine.
Oh, thank you. Thank you for the shout out as well. That is true. The reason I called it Indispensable Appraisers is that I do think appraisers, just maybe through time, been pushed to the sidelines. They're not, you don't see them on panels very often. If there's a real estate panel, it's usually like developer, banker, appraiser,
Mm.
broker, and you're seeing less of them. So I think not necessarily just a podcast, but having conversations, and I appreciate your time today, taking the time to talk about our industry and to know that, yes, we're still around. Yes, what we do is really interesting and complex work. And I think to your point about we've been painted as negative, I think that's largely because we were very quiet as a collective group. There was not that we have to necessarily push back, but more about, hey, we're here, we all try to do an ethical, credible job of what we do. But I think that lack of voice hurt us initially.
Well, that's a very interesting perspective that you say appraisers aren't usually in the panels or in the rooms, because in my world and over the last decade and a half, most of the panels and most of the work my work has been interacting with appraisers, all sorts of appraisers from all sorts of disciplines. And that's why I am just an unabashed champion of this profession. I see that brain power. I love that analytical skill. I wish I had more of that acumen in my DNA. I admire it so much because appraisers really are great problem solvers. They really are. They may not be the flashy social media giants that are out there, and that's a good thing. They don't have to be. There are strengths that appraisers hold that are just phenomenal. I don't want them to spend that energy in those other ways. I really want them to continue doing what they're doing. I just think they're phenomenal. I wish I was an appraiser, but I'm not. So I'll support you all in your work.
Got that. So, next question is, what are our greatest challenges as an industry overall?
I look at the challenges of this industry twofold. And part of this comes out of my listening sessions that I conducted in my first 100 days of becoming president. I met with over 100 people, more than 80 official listening sessions, and in talking in either one-on-one or very small groups, really learned that two things we have to tackle immediately is bringing in the next generation and developing consumer education products that help people understand better what appraisers do, what appraisals are, and the whole valuation space. So we need to do a better job at that. But I'm really encouraged about the next generation. I have a whiteboard. I'm old-fashioned whiteboard. I know a lot of people do a lot of just the online digital things, but I like writing on the whiteboard. So you'll see me looking up at my big whiteboard here in my office. I'm thinking about all the things that people are doing right now to bring in the next generation. We've got AI Perea. We've got supervisor trainee models. The Ohio Coalition of Appraiser Professionals just announced they brought in 17 new trainees that they're going to be training into the profession in the next year. We've got Melissa Bond on her third cohort of people going through her practicum program down in Mississippi. The Appraiser Diversity Initiative has 258 people in their program right now. 258, that's a big number. And 152 of them have completed their education, and 68 are already working in the profession. That's a success story. And then I've recently been talking with NSREA, the National Society of Real Estate Appraisers, who is developing a collaboration with Fayetteville College, which is a historically Black college and university, and Fort Liberty, which is a military base, and trying to find pathways into the profession to open this profession to all sorts of people. So next generation is really where we have to focus on, because we need thousands more people coming into this profession to do valuation. They have to be educated. They have to be properly trained. They have to understand what it is to do that analytical problem solving that appraisers do, and do it in a highly ethical way that you do. So I'm excited about next gen, but that is a big thing that we have to tackle. We really do have to tackle that in a very much more impactful way.
And that leads me, thank you for that. That leads me to my third question is, where do we go from here? You did mention, thousands of new appraisers. How do you think the appraisal bias narrative will play out? So, those are two big topics if you want to jump in on that. Where do we go from there? How do we bring in tangibly the next talent, the next generation? And what is your thoughts on the narrative the bias narrative, just looking forward, just generally how that's going to maybe play out.
Yeah, let's start with that bias narrative. Okay. So I think that appraisers are really standing up and putting on that full shield of protection that USPAP brings. If you stand behind USPAP, if you follow USPAP, appraisal bias is not going to creep into your appraisal results. It's not going to. So I think appraisers are embracing that shield of USPAP. They're embracing that shield of advanced education, getting that fair housing training, understanding all the impacts that are there. So I think that um, we're going to move successfully on to the next level, right? We were faced with some issues and we found a way to elevate. So I think that the appraisal profession is on that way to elevation. Um, to really talk about next steps and where do we improve our profession, what I would say to appraisers is get engaged, really become engaged more and more. We all get so busy with our work. I know I'm bad at this. I put my head down and go at it. And before I know it, what started at 7 a.m., I'm trying to wrap up and it's 6 p.m., and I got to get dinner on the table. And that's life for many of us. We just get so busy doing, we forget to refill ourselves and help ourselves become refilled and refreshed. And so to do that professionally, we need to interact with other professionals. So become engaged, become part of your state coalition, become a member of a professional society, meet for coffee with your appraiser friends in your area. You're all facing such tremendous pressures, time pressures, perfection pressures, all these pressures. You have to have a relief valve. And I find there is great relief in just interacting with professionals of like minds, talking about common problems and solving problems together. So really to move forward, let's get re-engaged and try to resist that natural tendency that we humans have to just put our heads down and do the thing that we got to get done until the next time and forget to take care of ourselves.
Great. Well, Kelly, I definitely appreciate your time today and joining me on Indispensable Appraisers podcast.
Thank you so much, Jeff. Glad to be here, and please keep up the good work.
Thank you. Have a good day.
You too.